today's patterns are lovely. One in particular is one of my favourites. So excited to share it with you. It's very simple, but very elegant. Okay. Let me just check one last look at the waiting room just to convince myself there's no one there. No, let's make a start. So welcome to session 2. Hopefully you can hear me and see me all right. The first thing I think I'm going to do is just demo how to search a Twitter hashtag, even if you don't have a Twitter account, because I'm aware that not everyone will necessarily have a Twitter account or want a Twitter account. So I thought we've been sharing using the ITGA hashtag, and I thought it'd be nice to just show people how to access that and see the work that's being shared without a Twitter account. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'll just share that one. Okay. And okay, so hopefully you can all see that. So literally, the easiest way to do it is to type the words Twitter search into the search bar. And that brings up, the first link that brings up is the Twitter search facility. Oh, we've got someone in the waiting room. Admit. Hi, Adela. I'm just going through how to search on Twitter. So that brings up Twitter search, and the nice thing about that is it doesn't log you in, so you can search incognito if you wish. At least I don't think it logs you in. No, I don't think it does. And then into the search bar at the top, you can type anything you like. So I'm going to search hashtag ITGA, and so you don't need an account to access any of this. You can just search the Twitter site. And if we look at latest, then I've just clicked the latest tab. That shows you everything in order of posting. So Holiday has just posted this doodle mandala, which I hadn't spotted earlier. And you can see there's Holiday's beautiful rainbow torus, and some more beautiful toruses done on this lovely paper in metallic pen. And there's the World Tobacco Growers Day celebration tweet that's in the thread as well, so quite a few of those. But if you carry on down, oh gosh, there's a lot of activity in the tobacco world right now. If you carry on down, then there's more glorious artwork. So if you'd like to see what people are up to, people have really run with the patterns and put their own stamp on them, and there's some absolutely lovely stuff there. Some people have used colour. You can see it all there. So if you haven't got a Twitter account, that's where you'll find what's going on. Some people have shared on Instagram as well with the same hashtag, so that's worth a look too. But I don't know how to do a search of Instagram if you're not a member of Instagram, so I can leave you to figure that out. Okay, so I'll stop sharing for a sec. I was sharing my screen. Liz, did you see it? Okay, hopefully. All right. Okay, so outline of the session and the equipment we're going to use today. So today we're going to extend our Seed of Life pattern that we worked with last week in a different way. So last week we added more and more circles in the sort of bisected vesicas, and we added more and more circles. This time, there's someone in my waiting room again. This time we're going to expand the Seed of Life outwards, and we're going to build a grid of those circles in that arrangement, and then we're going to pick out 2 Alhambra 6-fold patterns from the grid, and then we're going to have a look at some easy ways to add some colour. So hopefully you can see all that. Come over here a bit. So some easy ways to add colour to our patterns nice and quickly. And essentially, these are ways that I devised for myself. I didn't sort of invent them, but I discovered them for myself when I was doing Inktober this time last year. And I had the bonkers idea of working through a book on the Alhambra that I'll show you in a little while. And there are something like 41 patterns in the book, and I decided I was going to do all 41 patterns in the 31 days of October. And I did manage it just. And so because I was working quickly and in the evenings after work, I needed quick ways of making patterns interesting and adding colour to them. So I came up with some nice ways of doing so. So if you would like to, essentially, you're going to need your compass, your ruler, your pen and all of that. But then for adding colour, you can either have some coloured pencils, and I'll show you how to get a nice sort of raised effect with coloured pencils on your infills, or watercolour pencils, which these actually are, and we'll look at working with watercolour pencils, or fine liners or felt tips. Now, permanent ones won't work with water. So if you're someone that would like to try out using water to blend your felt tips or your watercolour pencils, then you're going to need a little paintbrush and some water. But you'd also need some heavier duty paper. And we're going to work directly onto the paper that we're going to colour in. So if you would like to experiment with water, then construct your patterns on your heavier quality watercolour paper or mixed media paper for that. Liz has said she didn't see my screen share. Did anyone see my screen share? Oh no. Oh, I did. Okay, phew. Liz, I think you'll be all right because I think you're a Twitter user anyway. Okay, that's great. Hopefully you can see me now, Liz. I should be full screen. Okay. So what was I saying? Yes, so we're going to construct directly onto the page that we're going to then add colour to today, because we're just going to highlight areas of our pattern. You may also want to try out a pen in your pen attachment if you have a pen attachment for your compass, and if you have metallic pens, you might want to try those out today. So I'm going to be outlining in metallic pen. If you don't have a pen attachment on your compass, okay, then I will show you also how to outline freehand using the natural curvature of your hand. So not to worry if you don't have all the kit, as long as you've got the basics, you'll be able to draw the patterns today. Okay, I'm just going to check the waiting room one last time a little bit. This was the session when I did it in August that the technology all went wrong. So I think I'm feeling a little bit nervous. It's going to happen again today. Okay, hopefully not. Okay, so that's the outline of the session and equipment for the session. I'm now going to show you the pattern that we are going to extend our seed of life to become. So I'm going to screen share again. I might share the whole screen so nothing weird happens again. Let me just share my whole screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see my PowerPoint slide. There we are. My chat disappears when I share a PowerPoint, so I can't actually see any cries for help. So I'm just going to plow on. Let me know afterwards if you didn't see it. You'll get the print off of the PowerPoint anyway. Okay, so session 2. We're going to take the seed of life that we created last week with our 7-circle grid, is the other way of describing it. And, oh, what was that? Is that someone? Hang on, I'm just going to, I think someone, there was a sound. I think someone's entered the waiting room. Let me just have a look. No, I don't know what that sound was. Okay, let's go back to screen share. Sorry about that. Okay, so with each time we add a new circle or a new pair of circles, you can see that we get a set of new intersections around the outside of the pattern. So where are we? So here we are. So those red dots are the set of new intersections, and at this stage we have 6. And so if we use those red dots as the centres of a new set of 6 circles, the same radius as the ones we've already used, you can see that we start adding more petals to a new set of flowers around the edge of the central flower. We're looking at those central six-fold flowers. And we get a whole new set of intersections. So you can then locate the next set of intersections on the outside of your pattern, and you can keep adding circles, as you can see. And this is the pattern that Melchizedek in the 90s named the flower of life. So the seed of life grows into, if you like, grows into the flower of life. And this, of course, can be extended indefinitely. And there are some lovely things you can do with the flower of life just as it is. You can frame it in a circle. You can add as many, as many layers of it as you like within a circle. And there's beautiful things people do with it. But we're not going to draw the flower of life and embellish the flower of life today. We're going to use it as an underlying grid for different patterns that are found in it. So is that that's the last slide. Stop share. I'm going to show you, I'm going to use my overhead camera, and I've only got one example today of something unusual you could do with the flower of life if you wish. So I'll just show you that image. Okay, so come down a bit. Oh, Iodele could not see the screen either. Iodele, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that's not working for everyone today. But you'll see the PowerPoint, the PDF of the PowerPoint soon enough. We're just literally adding more circles. In fact, it may be a pattern that you've already done. Okay, where are we? Okay, thank you, Dawn. Right, so this is the flower of life, but it's had some complexity added to it. I think this is, how many circles? It's quite difficult to see. There's our central circle. And then you can see we've got more layers. There's the flower, that's the seed of life within that circle. And then a couple more layers of circles have been added. But then a lot of other stuff has gone on. So you can see that some concentric circles have been drawn through sets of intersections. But there's other stuff going on as well in this, which when I sort of looked at it thinking about what I was going to draw attention to, I thought actually this is quite tricky to figure out, and it might make a nice challenge if you wanted to figure out how this has been done. So I'm going to send you, I found this on the internet. I don't know the author, that wasn't there, that wasn't obvious. But I will send out a PDF of the pattern. And if you'd like to have a go at reconstructing it, I think there's something rather beautiful about it, a bit kaleidoscopic. But you can see there's some other arcs that have been added in here and here, and sort of here and here to divide up, and some larger circles as well. So quite an interesting one to try and figure out where the centres of these circular arcs have been taken from. So one, that's, if you like, that's your homework. It's a challenge for you to sink your teeth into. Okay, right. So we're ready now to construct, and we're not going to construct a circular flower of life. We're going to extend the flower of life and make a rectangular grid. And we're going to do that twice because we're then going to pull out two separate patterns from the grids. So we're going to start by, actually, I think I'm going to show you the patterns first. Let's have a look. So these are two patterns from the Alhambra, and which one are we looking at? Yes, for this, this I've just printed off from the internet. I think the radius is more like 2 to 2.5 centimetres to get all of that on. And we're going to be using smaller radiuses today, and we're going to recommend everybody uses the same radius, whether you're on A4 or A3 paper. Okay, we'll be working in pencil and then outlining in pen later, Emma. Okay, so the two patterns are found in the Alhambra. They're found in other Moorish palaces and mosques as well. And the first one we're going to look at is a pattern that only appears in one tiny place in the Alhambra, and I can't find any pictures of it online, but there are pictures in this book by Manuel Martinez Vela. Claire's in the waiting room, which is an excellent book, and it shows you step by step how to outline how to create 41 patterns from the Alhambra. And it's quite difficult to get hold of. That was someone entering, wasn't it? Quite difficult to get hold of, but you can find it if you look. You can find it on ABE Books, ABE Books, but it has to usually be ordered from Spain, so it takes a while to get here. But really worth it if you're someone who's interested in this style of pattern. So the first one we're looking at is the tiles from the hot room in the Bath of Comares. They don't have their own name, but it's this tiny little, if you like, frieze around an alcove in the bath. And you can see it here with the flower of life in the background. Very simple pattern, but very elegant. And here it is with some colour. So that's the first one we'll be drawing. And for that, we're going to start with a horizontal line to get the flower of life in the correct orientation. And then the second one we're going to look at is quite iconic. So if you ever see anything about the Alhambra, it's likely that you'll see this pattern somewhere. And it's often called the Nasrid little birds because the little pattern pieces are said to look like little birds. And it's this one here. And this one also, you can see, also is constructed from the flower of life grid in the background. And sometimes you see it with stars, and you can see here little white hexagons. So sometimes it's seen with stars and hexagons, and other times, there it is with some colour. Other times you can't see it very well. I'm going to show you a better image in a sec. But other times the stars and hexagons aren't infilled. So I'll show you how to construct the star and hexagon, but you may or may not choose to include it in your pattern. So let's have a look at the last little book. This little book, I've never been to the Alhambra, but my aunt has, and she bought this back for me. This one is from the Alhambra bookshop itself. And there we've got a better close-up of the Nasrid little birds. And you can see quite clearly the hexagons and the stars alternating, and those traditional sort of Alhambra colours. And somewhere else, and there it is without the hexagons and stars. So it's got quite a different feel. I quite like it without. And then last of all, and here it is in situ in the Alhambra. In the I think that's in the baths as well. Okay, so that's hopefully whet your appetite. Let's get cracking. So for this one then, let's have a look. So we're going to start with the little infill tiles, the very simple pattern, tiles from the Bath of Comares. And I'm going to suggest a 3 centimetre radius for everyone, whether you're working on A3 or A4, although you could move up to 4 centimetres if you're on A3. But on A4, it's going to be a 3 centimetre radius. And if you want to embellish your pattern, try out some sort of smudgy water techniques, then construct directly onto thicker paper. I've got some mixed media paper here. We're going to start with a light horizontal line, but we are not going to place our compass at the centre of the page. We're going to offset by half a radius to one side because, here we go, because actually we want a vesica to be centred on our page, and so we want our compass point offset to one or other of the left or right of the centre of the page. So let's draw a horizontal line first. So on A4, that's 15 centimetres up, and on A3, that's 21 centimetres up. And remember that this should be done in a softer pencil because it's not part of the pattern and it's easier to erase if it's in a softer pencil. Hopefully everyone can see that. Oh, I was going to do mine a bit darker, wasn't I? I'll do mine in pen, but you work in pencil. Okay, and then find the centre of the page and make a tiny little mark. It's not quite 10.5, but it's about 10.5. And then, because our radius is going to be 3 centimetres on A4, we want to measure in 1.5 centimetres, half a radius, and that is where we're going to put our compass point. Let me just show you that. 1.5 centimetres either to the left or to the right of our centre. That's going to be our compass point. So hopefully everyone's all right with that. I'm going to construct in pen. Actually, I haven't got my attachment in, just so it's clearer on the screen. But because we're only picking out certain circles, and we don't want the other parts of the circles to be prominent, you need to construct in pencil. Okay. And 3 centimetre radius. If you're on A3 and you wanted to do a 4 centimetre radius, I'm doing a 4 centimetre radius because I'm just talking about a 4 centimetre radius, then your compass point would have to be offset 2 centimetres from your centre, half your 4 centimetre radius. Okay, so there we are. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to work in rows, because constructing a seed of life and then growing it outwards can actually get a little bit complicated. So we're going to work in rows of 4, then 5, then 4, then 5, 4, then 5, then 4, then 5. So I'm going to go to the left and pop my second circle, to the right and pop my third circle, and then one more on this side so that the pattern's balanced. So I've got my first row of 4 circles overlapping, and then I have 3 intersections at the top or at the bottom. So I'm going to go bottom first, and I'm going to use those 3 intersections first of all to draw 3 new overlapping circles, and that will create a new intersection either side, and I'll then add those 2 outer circles so that I get a row of 5. So let's have a look. Adding 3 in the intersections I've already got, and then locating the 2 new intersections on the outside, using those to add 1 more either side. Remember to pop into the chat if you get lost or don't follow. Okay, I might bring that over a bit. I'm trying to find ways of avoiding shadow. Might be a bit too bright. Might come down a bit. Make that straighter. There's a little bit of glare, isn't there? Oh well, hopefully you're all right. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same at the top. So I'm going to add 5 across the top. You're probably all far ahead of me now. So I'm going to add 5, and then 4, and then 5, and underneath 4, and then 5. In fact, I might just work down the page. I'm going to do 4 using these 4 intersections. Don't worry too much if you lose a bit of accuracy. I can see that I have already. Because we're picking a pattern out from it, it's not too crucial. In a row of 5. The rows of 5 always start with 3, and then you can add on 1 either side. And actually, what have I got? 4, 5, 4, 5. This is the last row I need going down. I won't extend any further. If you do, that's fine. You can extend your pattern a bit further. And then I'm going to go up. So I've started with 4 in the centre, 5, 4, 5. A lot more circle drawing practice. Just in case you didn't have enough last week. Okay, this is going to be my last row at the top, a row of 5. A bit wonky there, never mind. Okay, just going to check the chat. Right, hopefully everyone's all right with that. I'll just give people a few more seconds to sort of finish their grid. And I'm going to label this one in pencil because the 2 grids are very similar but slightly different. So we need to make sure we're using the right grid for the right pattern. So I'm going to label this hot room tiles at the top. There we are. And I know that that's that grid. We're not going to draw the tiles on yet. I think we'll construct both grids, then we'll outline the tiles, and we can use a pen. If you've drawn in pencil, then you can use a pen for that. You can use a fancy metallic pen if you like. You could use coloured pencil, anything that's different from the pencil that you've used for the underlying grid. Okay. If anyone needs a little bit longer to construct their hot room tiles underlying grid, just pop in the chat. I'm happy to wait. Okay. A little bit more time, that's fine, Ayodele. I'll have a quick swig of my water bottle. Halfway, that's fine, Jenna. And what could... So one thing I will say is there's 2 ways of framing the hot room tiles pattern. So you can, what's lovely about the pattern is it creates these little rhombusy shapes. Now we won't be doing a 4 wide one, we'll be doing, we'll have the potential, if you like. You can choose to do one that's this size, which is, where are we? 3 wide at the centre, 3 tiles wide. So you've got the option of constructing your pattern in a little rhombus shape like that, or, and I haven't actually constructed the pattern here, but you can create an inner rectangle on your grid and actually tile the entire rectangle so that at the edges you'll have parts of tiles, and your design will fill a rectangular grid which you could then frame with metallic pen or black or something like that and create a pattern within a rectangle. So it's up to you. We'll all start with the little rhombus, the little 3 wide rhombus, and then it's up to you whether you want to extend it out into to form the rectangle or not. So those are our options for playing with the design side of it, if you like. Okay. How are we getting on, Ayodele and Jenna? Don't rush your circles. Thanks, Yvonne. Okay. Okay, Jenny, you can take your time. I'm just going to set up the next beginning for the next, and I'm happy to repeat if you miss anything. Beginning for the next pattern. Now this is going to be done in a different orientation. So the underlying grid for the Nazrid little birds is what we're doing now. And for both A4 and A3, the pattern uses a lot of circles. In fact, I can show you, compared to the size of the hot room tiles on the Flower of Life grid, you can see that the Nazrid little bird is actually massive compared to these. It uses up a lot more of the Flower of Life grid to create one tile. So hence, if we want it to fit on an A4 sheet, we need to make our circles a bit smaller so that our flowers of life are a little smaller. So we're going to work with, what did I say, a 2.5 centimetre radius for this, whether you're on A4 or A3, otherwise the pattern just gets too big. So 2.5 centimetre radius. You could go down to 2, but it gets quite difficult to draw circles accurately at a 2 centimetre radius. If you're feeling confident, then you can try that. But a 2.5 is fine and fits on the page. Remember that if you want to colour using any water techniques, then construct directly onto thicker paper. And this time we're going to, in fact, I'll show you the grid. I think that's the easiest way. Where have I put my grid? Don't need that. Okay, so for this one, we're going to start with a vertical. So what you'll notice, if I show you the one we've just done the one on the left, and you can see it has a row. We started with a horizontal line, and you can see that it's got a row of petals lying on that line, but there are no petals on the vertical. So we get this orientation always if we start with a horizontal line and take our first intersections off the horizontal. If you start with a vertical line, you get the other orientation of the pattern. So you can see we have a vertical line of petals, but no horizontal petals. So for to get this pattern in the orientation in which it's found in the Alhambra, we're going to start with it this way up. The other thing you'll notice is there's no need to offset the radius. The radius can be right, no need to offset the centre of the circle, the starting circle. That's right at the centre of the page. So we're going to start with a vertical line this time, and then find the centre of our vertical line for our first circle, and we're going to use a 2.5 centimetre radius. Okay. So hopefully everyone is all right. I'm going to measure up from the side of my A4. I'm going to measure up 2 10.5 centimetre marks and pop my ruler across because that's practically the centre of my page to get my vertical. If you're doing A3, I think it's 15 centimetres. It's the centre vertically. 0.5. I was going to do it in pen, wasn't I? So I'm doing mine in pen. You do yours in pencil. And then approximately 15, is it 15? Yes, 15 centimetres up is half A4. So I'm going to put a dot 15 centimetres in. Okay, and that's my starting point for my first circle. Now I am going to just discuss the pattern layout one more time. Where are we? So this is what we're going to draw, and it is, what did I say? We're going to be constructing our circles vertically because that's where we're going to get our first intersections with our vertical line. So if we're constructing vertically, we're going to have 7 overlapping circles in that central line, and then 8, and then 7, and then 8. And that's how our pattern's going to grow. But we're going to finish off with some half circles around the edge here, which you can hopefully see. And that's because we need these completed flower petals right on the edge. And so to complete the full flower along the edge, we just need to put in a few extra arcs. But that'll become obvious to you when we get to that point. So we're going to start working vertically. I mean, you could work horizontally if you just turned your page. And we're going to go 7 circles and then 8 either side, then 7 and then 8. Okay. Let's have a look. Oh, and it's a 2.5 centimetre radius, so you're going to have to adjust your radius from the previous pattern. Okay, 2.5 centimetres, 7 overlapping circles to start. Going up the page. My cats are moaning at me outside that I'm staunchly ignoring. They've just been fed. They just want attention. So I've added 3 on top of my central circle, and now I'm going to add 3 below my central circle to get the row of 7. Column of 7, I should say. To fit the pattern on, Yvonne, you can stick with the 7 and the 8. You'll get a full, if you like, iteration of the pattern with the 7-8 grid. But if you'd like to extend the pattern further, then fit as many as you can on. And then you can set yourself the challenge of seeing how the pattern then extends. I'll discuss that, and then you'll be able to fit a bit more of it on your page. Essentially, we're you can just about see. Essentially, we're doing one sort of swirl of 6 little birds around our central point, and that fits on our grid of 7 and 8s. But you could think then about extending further around the sides. Okay. Right, where was I? Okay, so then if you've done your central 7, you'll have 5 intersections. You'll have 6 intersections, and then so use those 6 to create 6 new circles, and then you'll get your new intersections either end, and you can add your 7th and 8th circle. So add your 6. And then 1 extra at the bottom and 1 extra at the top. Oops, that was not accurate at all. Mind. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 intersections. We just use those 7 more circles. Do little micro adjustments if you need to. If you've lost a bit of accuracy, just figure out where your compass point should go. But don't worry too much about it. Okay, is that 1 more? 8? Yes, so the next row is a row of 8. Next column is a column of 8. Something rather therapeutic about drawing all these circles. I've started a calligraphy course online. And so last night I was doing a similar sort of thing, but with pen strokes. I was just doing hundreds of the same. Do I need one more here? Yes. Hundreds of the same sort of, well, straight lines is what I'm at the moment. Lesson number 1, drawing skinny and bold lines, essentially. But it's therapeutic in the same way as doing this is. I'm going to turn mine, because I'm left-handed, it's easier for me to work this way, so I'm going to turn mine upside down and carry on the other side of the pattern. Jenna, hopefully you're all right. You've caught up okay, but if you want me to go through anything about how to get this grid started, I'm happy to go back and explain. More at the top. And that's 7, 8, 7. Great. And I'm on to my last row of 8, and then I'll show you where to put your half circles. It's obvious really, so if you are ahead of me, then we just need all flowers to have all their 6 petals. So you'll see quite clearly where to add your half circles. At the top, one at the bottom. And then I think I'm just going to pause for a minute or so, make sure everyone gets to this stage with their complete circles. And you can see on the outside we've got some flowers that haven't got all their petals in, just got 2 in. Okay, let me know in the chat if you need me to stop for a little bit longer. But I'm now going to just demo popping those half circles in down the side. And essentially you just use this set of intersections that have emerged on each outer edge. So and what you'll see is I'm just going to stop at the edge of my pattern, or well, I didn't exactly there, but just because I want to keep quite nice to have a nice bubbly frame around the outside, but you can just take it as far as you like. And you can see now that I have a full flower there. I don't think we need one down here. No, we don't need one down Okay, and this last one you can see at the top still needs 2 petals completing. And then the same on the other side. I'm just going to turn my page round. Do that. At some point in this session, maybe at the end, I'm going to have a little chat about if you're interested in exploring watercolours. I'm just going to show you the basics of what you might need to get hold of. That won't be until session 4, so you've got a little bit of time to get kitted out if you wish. Oh, I've missed one here. So that's the good final check, is to check that you have a set. Oh, I missed one here as well. Yes, I'm doing very well. There we are. And here too. What's happened there? Don't know. Okay, you should have a full set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overlapping flowers either side. And we need the ones at the top? No, we don't. So we don't need to have perfect flowers at the top. You can add them if you wish, just down the sides. Okay, and this one I'm going to, with my pencil, this is the Nasrid. In fact, I might do this in pen so that you can see the spelling. This is the Nasrid Little Birds. Okay. And again, I'll just give people a little bit of a chance to catch up until they're happy with their grids. Okay. Pop into the chat if you'd like a couple of minutes. And if you're ready, then you might want to get your compass, if you have a pen attachment, kitted out with whatever it is that you would like to enhance, to bring out the underlying, the pattern, the overlying pattern from the underlying grid. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So here you can see with gold pen, I've basically gone over just sections of the underlying grid. And these sections are what forms the new tiles. So all the lines that we need are already there. We're not adding lines. Okay, so you could do that in black or gold or coloured pencil or fine liner pen, whatever you have you'd like to use. Andrea, that's fine. Happy to wait. Actually, it might be useful to see what people have got to colour with. So you can maybe pop that in the chat so that I've got an idea of what sorts of things you've got, whether you've just got coloured pencils or whether you've just got felt tips or whether you've got both. I will go over everything. Oh, Andrea, nice work. Watercolour paints. Colouring pencils and fine liners, excellent. Can I just show the bottom of the pattern? Yes, of course, Claire. Let me just get that straight. Hopefully you can see that all. Emma's been shopping. Okay, great. So most of you, we've got something we can do the water experiments with. If you've got watercolour pencils or fine liners or felt tips, then we can have a play with water, which is great. Can you? Yes, of course, Jenna. Let me pop my, I'll do it in a different colour. Let me just find a coloured pencil. Yeah, I'll do it in green. Probably not the best colour, but so I'll just go over a couple of mine. So imagine that this is the side of the pattern. It isn't, but imagine it was. You should have a set of new intersections, sort of at the edge of each bubble. So this one, and then this one, and then this one. And for each intersection, you use the intersection to draw a half circle. Then I'm going to move down to the next one. Draw another half circle there. And what you'll find is these half circles. Lillian. Oh, I think Lillian's got her timings wrong. Hi, Lillian. We've been going an hour, I'm afraid. So I think you've the timings were incorrect for you. It's now nearly 6 p.m. in the UK. It's 5:52 p.m. So I've drawn the underlying grid. So it might be that you want to leave today's session, and I'll get the video out to you tomorrow for you to catch up. And then remember that next week's session will start an hour earlier than now, because it's currently 5:52 in the UK. Hopefully you heard that, Lillian. Jenna, have you got the petals sorted? So I've only done a few down the side, almost. Okay. Okay. I think we'll start with the little birds. That's the easier one. No, not the little birds. We'll start with the tiles from the Bath of Comares, the hot room tiles. I'll just leave this grid up just for another minute or so that everyone can get there. Okay, I think I'm going to do my outlining in, I've got some fancy new metallics. I think I might use one of those. I might use Red Garnet Spectrum Noir, its first outing. Can I get the lid off is the question. So, let's see. Oh, there's a brush. Actually, I want something a bit thicker. I won't use that. I should just use my trusty gold pen. In fact, I'll talk about these. These are my favourite gold pens. They're called Pebeo for Artists markers. And the nice thing about them is they are oil-based, which means that if you outline patterns in them, and then use watercolours, for example, or water with your fine liners or your watercolour pencils, they form a sort of little impermeable barrier around your inner sections of your pattern. And so you can be quite creative with you, and you can use a lot of water and things like that, because it's like you have a little sort of barrier with which to experiment in, if you like, because they're oil-based. So they're lovely, and this size is which size is it? I think this is the 2mm nib. I'm not sure. I should say yes. This is the 2mm nib, and this is a good one because it fits in my pen attachment. So that's also always a consideration with with pens you get for outlining is, will they fit? Will they fit in the pen attachment? Sharpies also just about fit in these pen attachments, so Sharpies can be useful as well. Unfortunately, a lot of metallic pens are quite fat, and so they're useful for other things, but not for sticking in your compass. Iodelle, yes. Let me, in fact, I'll do it. No, I'll do it in a different colour this time. Where are we? So the half circles on the edge, I'll do it in red. I'll do along the bottom here. So you should see that you have some intersections along the edge of your, along the bubbly left hand and right hand edge of your patterns. Mine have been drawn into, so mine have got the half circles in, but essentially start at the bottom, find the first intersection and draw a half circle. And you'll find that that half circle completes one of the little flowers that's appearing within each circle, and work your way up. Okay. So hopefully you can see that all right. So you're just finding the intersections on the outside edge, and each intersection of two circles becomes the centre for a half circle. Okay, good. Okay, right. I am going to get set up then for picking out my hot room tiles. So this is the grid you need in front of you, the one that we started on the horizontal with. And you should, hopefully, you might all be able to spot the tile. So here it is. It's this arched part here of the rouleau triangle. So we have a rouleau triangle here, and we're using the top two arcs, and then we're coming in either side at the bottom. So we have an arch and then a point. Okay. Iodelle, are you all right to get started on the outlining for the hot room tiles? You could probably finish off your half circles. Great. Okay. So I'm going to pop in my, where are we? My gold pen. It's nice and thick, so you should be able to see what I'm doing. And essentially, we're drawing sets of, if you like, each of these little arcs is a sixth of the circumference of the circle. So we're going to be popping in lots of little sixths arcs. So I'm going to measure, because I've changed pen, I'm going to re-measure my length, my radius off my diagram and adjust there. Sometimes it helps put a tiny little dot in. And you can see if your compass is in the right place. I might actually lengthen my pen a bit more. There we go. Okay, check it once more. Okay, that looks about right to me. Okay, the nice thing about that, we're going to use these three across here are going to be the width of our little rhombus. So if I start here, I'm going to put, you can put two arcs in at once. So I'm going to place that first arc, and then I'm going to swing my compass round and do this outer arc as well. So I might bring my, do this. That's better, isn't it? I'm going to go through that again. Okay, so there was my center of my page. I'm going to use the compass point to the left of that, place my compass point there, and I'm going to draw one of my sixth arcs, and then I'm going to swing round and do the one at the other side. Okay. Oh, yes, do. Andrea, you can, if you use the curvature of your hand, get your hand in the right position, you can outline beautifully. Circular arcs are almost the perfect thing to outline with your hand. So get that swing, and then you can use a hand, you can outline by hand. Okay. Hopefully we can all see that. And then, so I started here and pop those 2 arcs on. I'm now going to move to the other side of my centre and do the same. 1 little arc on one side and 1 on the other. And you can see that our central petal, if you like, has got its upper arcs in place. And now I need to complete this one and this one. So I'm going to move my compass point to the next centre along and just put one of the arcs in there, and to the other side, pop the other arc in. And you can do this freehand. Okay, just conscious there's a little bit of glare. Let me come down a little bit further. Okay. Hopefully you can, maybe if I move it that way or that way. All that way is a bit better. Okay, there we are. Now, it's easiest to work up the page first. So if you have your 6 mini arcs that create 3 arches, I'm now going to do 2 sets here and here. So I'm going to move to the top of my left hand, or you might do it to the top of your right hand if you're right-handed, arch. And I'm just going to put 1 arc in the middle. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the centre, and I can put 2 in, 1 on that side, and I can swing round and do the 1 on the other side. And then I'm going to move 1 along and do that last arc. And you can see we now have 2 complete petals. And then we're going to have, if we're going to do the rhombus shape, you can see we just need to complete the one at the top. It needs its little lid. So place compass point at the top of 1 arch and do your 1/6 of your circumference, and on the other side as well. Okay. And so we've got the top of our rhombus, and then moving down, you've got to think quite carefully. So I'm going to start on completing the outside of the outside edges, or the lower edges of this petal here. Now, to do this lower edge, I need to place my compass. You can figure out where, but at this point here, and that completes that first lower edge of my set of 3 along the centre. I'm going to move along to the next one. So I'm moving along a radius each time, and I can only put 1 in at this stage as well. Then move along, and this one I can put 2 in, 1 on the right and 1 on the left. Move along again, and this one is just 1. And then move along 1 more to the outside of my pattern and pop in that last one. And so that central row of 3 is complete. And then you can see the arches of the next 2 underneath. So again, I'm going to start on an outside one. And then keep moving 1 radius in each time. I don't think I can do a double. Yeah. No, they're all singles at this stage. Okay. And then there's that very last one at the bottom, just needs its 2 bottom arcs. So quite easy to see where the compass needs to go to complete those. either side. Okay. And there is the rhombus shape. Now I think I'm going to leave mine as a rhombus, but I'm going to show you how you would extend it if you wanted to extend it into the rectangle. So maybe I will extend it into the rectangle, give people a little bit of time to catch up. Use a red. I'm going to put a red frame around mine just so that you can see it. Actually, have I gone too far? Look. Oh yes, I have a bit. So ignore this bit here. Let's put the we'll put the verticals in first. So the vertical is going to butt up against the edge of my 3 central petals. So I'm going to go down there. And then this side. You could do a different rectangle if you wished. I just thought this was a nice one that, well, we have all the arcs we need to complete this rectangle. And then across the top, so that it touches the very top of our topmost petal, and it touches the very bottom of our bottommost petal. And then actually, maybe I will do that. I'm going to complete my little rectangle. I didn't do that last time, so I'm going to do it this time. Give people a chance to catch up. So re-measure my arcs, and then I'm just completing where I can see I've got sides of petals that need doing. My pen seems to be running out a bit. I'll just give that a pen. I need these ones here. Okay, and then I can see that I need to place my compass point outside my rectangle to get that arc in, and outside to get that one in. And that's complete. This one needs this one in here. And this one in here. And then quite a bit needs doing at the bottom. I might actually frame it in gold and red. Okay. Oh, one little tip. I'm not seeing the gold pattern. Can you adjust? Yeah, let me have a look at how I can. Maybe if I turn that off. It is a bit glary, isn't it? Should have used a different colour. Is that a bit better, Andrea? A tad, yeah. I could actually go over it in black. In fact, I'm going to outline one of the petals in thicker black, and then once you've spotted what one looks like, you can it's good to go. Let's use the black colour. Thin sharp is what I like. Let's use a nice thick. Here we are. I'll just use a thicker black. So essentially, I'll do the one at the top here. So this is the the pattern we're picking out. I'll see if I can do something about the lighting for next week. Or perhaps just not use gold. That might have been the answer. Okay, hopefully that's a lot clearer now. And you can see the, and we have 3 and then 2 and then 1. And then 2 and then 1 underneath if you're doing the little rhombus shape. Which is a kind of a little bit of a fractal because it's like a larger version of the pattern, the individual petal itself. Okay, would anyone like me to hang on a little bit longer before I start on the next, on the Nazrid little birds? Oh, I was going to say a little tip about outlining with, well, with anything really, black pen or metallic pen, is if your ruler has a beveled edge, so that it's it becomes thinner as it gets towards the edge, then place your ruler upside down so that when you outline, your ink isn't actually touching your ruler because there's a gap between your ruler and the pen and the paper. And that means that when if you outline with your ruler flat, sometimes when you pull your ruler away, it can when you pull your ruler away, it can smudge your line. So turning your ruler upside down, if it has a beveled edge, can eliminate that sort of smudge that you can sometimes get. Okay. Okay, well, no one's asking me to hold on, so I think we'll leave that pattern. You've either got your little rhombus or you've filled a little rectangle, and you can decide, once we've drawn both patterns, you can decide which one you'd like to add some colour to during the session. So that means that we're going back to our Nazrid little birds. I'll lift that up a bit. And this one, because it's a bit trickier, I will definitely not outline in gold. Let's go for black. Here we are. Let's okay. So there we are. Now I'm going to show you what the pattern looks like. So this is what we're after. This was in gold last time, but hopefully you can just about see. So we have got, who was that? Someone just entered, I think. Okay. So we've got, here's our Nazrid little bird shape here, and we have 6 of them twisted around the centre. So you can sort of see this central swirl. Now, last time I did this, I did one Nazrid little bird at a time, but actually, if I use my red, what you might spot is that you could construct the individual little birds, or you could construct the swirls. So I'm going to outline the tile that we could construct instead. And actually, I think that might be a bit easier. So let me pop that hexagon on. And there you can see the 6-foldness of the pattern. Okay. And where would the next one be? Up here. And this one here. So you can think of this pattern as a set of swirls inside a hexagon that's then tiled with triangles. So little triangle bits here. And then another hexagon. Oh, I am wondering whether it would be easier to do it as a set of swirls, or I think let's do individual tiles, but I think it helps you to see where your next tile goes to also be aware of the set of swirls that appear around the pattern. Okay, hopefully that was clear as mud. Let's just get started. I think, where are we? Here. So I'm going to use my thick black Sharpie. That should be nice and easy to see. And okay, so where are we going to start for this? Okay, so make sure that if you've got a new pen, make sure that your pen is that 2.5 centimetre radius, because we changed our radius from 3 to draw this one. Locate your centre, but we're not going to use that centre. We're going to go 1 radius down from the centre. Okay, and that's going to be where I place my compass point. So not the centre, but 1 step down, 1 petal down. And each time we draw an arc, our arc is going to go through 2/6 or 2 petals of the flowers. So last time we were drawing arcs that were just 1/6 in length, and now we're going to draw them double the size. So I'm going to place my compass point 1 place below the centre, place the pen at the centre, and I'm going to do 2 petals worth of arc. Okay. I hope this is a lot clearer, isn't it, in black, so that's good. Okay. Now, I think what I'll do is I'm going to have the Nasrid little bird on the side here, so you can sort of see what we're aiming for. We've just done this piece here. Okay, so essentially it's a set of concave and then convex arcs. So if I've gone in that direction, I now need to curve. I continue my curve, but I curve in the other direction. So I need to draw this double arc here, this 2 sets of petals, which means I need to put my compass point here. So I'm happy to go through that again, but essentially this petal curves one way and then the other. And so to get that arc in, I need to place my compass point on the other side. Okay. Hopefully we're all right with that. So I've curved one way by placing my compass point here. And then I've had to curve it in the other direction, so I've placed my compass point here. Now, if we look at the shape, it then curves back up into itself. So I need to place this arc, this 2/6 or 1/3 of my circle. So in order to do that arc, I need my compass point here at the centre of the arc I've just drawn. So I'm going to place my compass point there, and I'm going to draw that portion there. I'll move this up a bit. There we are. Okay, now that's got to now curve in the other direction. We've got that piece, and now it just continues, but it's curving in the other direction. So I've got to put this arc in, which means my compass point needs to go here. Okay, hopefully everyone's all right. And now we need to get back to the start to finish off our little bird. So it's a good idea to trace it out first with your finger. So starting where I just ended, I need to curve back round here. And then change my curvature to get back to the start. Okay, so to do this one, I need my compass point here in the centre of the arc I've just drawn. Okay. And then to finish off, curving in the other direction, I need to place my compass pointer outside the shape. And there we have it, our first little bird. In fact, I might shade that in so that you can see it clearly. And you can see why doing it with any bigger a radius than 2.5 would have just got a little bit too big. Yay! Okay, well, now I've got to add 5 more that sort of swirl around that central point. So I think I always move left, but I think that maybe there's only chances that maybe there's another one left-handed person in the group. So I might go out of my comfort zone and move to the right instead. Okay, so hopefully everyone's got the first little bird drawn. And so the next one arcs out of that central point. So we're going to do our 2 petals worth of circumference, our third of a circumference. And then you just think, well, if it's going to arc out there, my compass point needs to be here. So there we are. Okay. And then it's that idea that it curves one way and then it's got to curve the other way. And the only place that curve can go is around here. And sometimes it feels like you're going too far away from where you need to be. But just trust that you've got to carry on that curve and it's got to curve in completely the other direction. So it's got to be here, which means my compass point is up here. Here we are. So compass point on. And the second part of that side of my little bird. And then we have to create the bird's head or wing or whatever it is. So I need to come back in. Compass point at centre of the arc I've just drawn. Okay. And then we've got to complete it. You trace that with your finger first and locate that compass point position. And if you're feeling confident, you can now start adding them. Always start at that centre and add a new swirl. I might do that one in a different colour. Okay, so I'm going to work my way round. I'm going to do the next swirl up here, coming from that central point. And then that's got to change direction, so it's going to go around there. And then I've got to create the head. And then I've got to join it back up. Okay, and then my next swirl coming out of my centre here. That's then got to curve in the other direction. I've got to create my little head. And then got to get back to the start. Or complete the bird, really. And then the very last one is sort of partially formed and just needs its outside edge put in. Okay. Give everyone a little bit of time to finish that off. Who was it who did a smaller radius? Was it Yvonne? Can't remember. If you used a smaller radius, a 2 centimetre radius, you can sort of set yourself the challenge of adding more tiles to your pattern. In fact, we could all do that if we wanted to. You can see that here at the bottom right, I have another swirl beginning, just like I did at the centre. So I could add in those, I'm missing one from my underlying grid, but I could add in, I've got 3, haven't I? 3 swirls there, so I just need to add 3 more in. And it's the beginning of a new set of tiles then. Oh, it was Yvonne. Do you find that, I find that when I do smaller compass widths, the point of the compass, it must be physics or something, the point of the compass keeps slipping out. It's much harder, it must be something to do with torque or moments or God knows what. But yeah, I find it difficult to keep my compass point in the paper, it just slips out. So 2.5 centimetres is much more comfortable. I do have a baby compass somewhere that I use for smaller circles. Okay, so now your decision is which one do you want to do some colour explorations on. So I'll just show those again. If anyone wants to see the little bird grid, just yell. But we're going to try, you could just try one technique and do your whole pattern in that technique. Or if you'd like to experiment a bit, I'm going to go through the different techniques in turn. So I won't go through it in detail just yet. I'll just give people a chance to say in the chat if they're still finishing off their little birds pattern and would like me to wait. And then when I know everyone's ready, I should go over how I created the different effects and then we'll go through them one by one, do them together. So yell if you'd like a bit more time. Yes, no problem. We've got good time, we've got half an hour left for sort of colour exploration, which is just perfect. So, Okay, Idele, perhaps use your hot room tiles. There's someone, I keep hearing funny little sounds. Don't know what they are. No one's in the waiting room. Okay. Yes, perhaps use your little hot room tiles. If your little birds aren't finished, then we can practice on the hot room tiles. I think that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes the smaller patterns are easier to fill in. Okay. I know there's a bit of glare, but we don't need to see where they are really. Okay, let me talk through the different types of technique we'll be looking at. Let me just get that angled better. That's not good at all, is it? That's a bit better. Okay, so when I did Inktober Alhambra, as I said, I was always drawing my patterns at the end of a long day, and I didn't want to just draw the patterns and outline them and leave them at that. I wanted to add a bit of colour. So I devised ways, some accidental ways, of adding colour quickly. And one of the ways that was accidental was that I outlined a pattern in my fine liner pens, which were the Stabilo ones. And then I wanted to use watercolour pencil on it, I think. And so I put some watercolour pencil on it and added water to my pattern, and lo and behold, all my fine liner bled as well. But and I suddenly thought, oh, well, that's quite handy actually. So if you have non-permanent felt tips or fine liners, you can actually use them to add a rather lovely sort of, let me bring this down actually. Okay, and move that down here. That's a bit better. So yes, you can use fine liners with water to get a sort of little blush effect, which is very subtle. But actually, when you have a lot of tiles with this sort of blush effect going on, it can actually look really effective. So let me come down and talk about each one in turn. Okay. So and there's also two ways of inlining your patterns. I don't know if inline's a word, but it suits what I'm describing. So we've all outlined our pattern to pull the pattern out from the underlying grid, whether we've done it in metallic pen or black pen. And then you can see here I've used two types of inline. I've done a gap. So I've put my fine liner pen in my compass. You can do it freehand, but I've left a little gap around the edge here. So all of these have been gapped. And then on the other side, you can see that actually I've opened my compass out slightly further so that my fine liner actually butts up right along the edge of my gold there. So that's essentially no gap. By doing this outlining, I'm essentially laying down pigment that I'm then going to pull out with water into the centre. So here we've got fine liner on its own, no blending, fine liner on its own, no blending. So subtle effects, and they just add interest. And then here I did exactly the same thing, but I blended with water. And so it's very subtle effect. You can't see it that well, but there is just like a little blush there. And then here I added a little layer of watercolour pencil. And so I've got my fine liner outline and my watercolour pencil, and then I blended those with water. And there's just more pigment down there, so I've got a stronger effect. And then here was just fine liner with coloured pencil. And so you can achieve really nice effects and by shading with coloured pencil, and you dark around the edges. Oh, Claire dropped out. Here we are. Hopefully she's joining okay. So yeah, so you can use coloured pencil as well with no blending with water. But if you if you use it heavier at the edges, you can still get similar effects. And here I've done the same thing, but this was the no gaps. So this is blended watercolour pencil, and this is just blended fine liner. And you can see a subtle difference between the two. You get more pigment with watercolour pencil. This one was watercolour pencil. I do find watercolour pencils quite challenging to use, especially, and the bigger the area that you're in filling with colour, the harder it is to control the colour, I find. And then here, I've outlined with fine liner rather than having an extra gold outline. And what I did here was I pulled a clean paintbrush across the page, and you can't see very well, but it sort of swept the fine liner and smudged it in one direction. So that's something you can play with as well, and I'll show you an image from my book where I use that quite well. It's not so effective here. So you can just outline with fine liner and then blend it. Here I've got a double outline with fine liner, just playing around a bit. And then of course, you've all got your newfound doodling skills. So you can combine those, and actually this little petal pattern is perfect for adding a few doodles into and embellishing. So here I outlined in fine liner. I drew the pigment into the centre. I didn't sweep my paintbrush across. And I'll show you how to do that. And then I've added some doodle embellishments as well. Okay, and you'll all get a scan of this with your set of resources, so you'll have it to refer to. So hopefully you have got your colours at the ready. And what I'm going to do is, Andrea, I know you're working freehand, so I'm going to start first of all by adding with a fine liner. I'm going to add an inline with a gap, but I'm going to do it freehand. And then I'm going to put my pen into the compass and show you how to do inlines with a compass. And then I'm going to do some with watercolour pencil as well. And then we'll look at blending them or leaving them as is. Okay, so what was I going to do first? First of all, I was going to do, that's not a very good pencil pen, I'll use a dark red. First of all, I'm going to do a freehand inline. And last week I talked about using the natural curvature of your hand, and hands make really good circular arcs. So the main thing to do is to get your page set up so that your hand's in the right place to do your arc. And then I'm going to leave a little gap, just do it by eye, and I'm going to pop that first inline in. Okay. And then I'm going to move my paper round until the hand's in the right place to do the second inline. I might come down a bit. There we are. And so I'm finishing off this inline here, getting the swing. Okay, and then I've got to do these two down. And for those, I've got to have my hand here for this one. I'll turn my paper around to get it in the right place. Okay. So outlining circles or circular arcs by freehand is actually, I wouldn't say it's easy to do, but it's a lot easier to do than outlining straight lines freehand. So that's something you might want to have a play with. I've seen people do constructions freehand. Someone called Adam Williamson, who is does a lot of Islamic geometric art. He's sort of perfected the art of drawing freehand underlying grids. So he sort of rests his palm on the page and then just twists the page round and creates sets of sort of interlocking circles and things completely freehand. It's quite something to watch him do it. So so hands make good arcs. So that one's the one done freehand. I'm now going to pop the same fine liner pen. You might have a felt tip. You might want to use a watercolour pencil. I'm going to pop it into my compass attachment. If you haven't got your compass attachment, then you can just carry on doing some freehand inlining. And I'm going to talk through how to do a gapped inline with a compass and how to do a no gapped inline with a compass. Okay, I'll just give you a moment to get your pens in. It's not quite in the right place. Okay. Now the thing about inlining is you need a different radius to do the bottom arcs than you do the top arcs, because to inline the bottom arc you're actually on the outside of a circle, and to inline the top arcs you're actually on the inside of your circle. So let's start by, I'm going to work on this one here, and I'm going to open my compass up until it's got the gap size that I'm after. Just doing it by eye. And I'm going to do one side of my arc, transfer to the other side, and complete the top arch. In fact, I might do the other side as well while I'm at it, because you probably do all your top arches at once, and you don't have to change your compass opening. So imagine that I've done all the top arches in my pattern. I'm now going to work on my two bottom ones, and what you'll notice is that I now have to extend my compass, and I extend it till it meets the bottom of the arc that I drew earlier, more or less. You kind of have to do it by eye. And then I'm going to pop in a bottom arc, but I'm going to stop when it hits an imaginary vertical line that goes through the center of my petal. Okay, then transfer to the other side and complete. Actually, I should have done this one at the same time. This one here. You can see I overshot a bit there. Transfer it over and complete that. Okay. So that's using a compass for inlining. I'm going to do a couple actually with a different colour where I butt right up against the edge. What colour shall I use for that? I might use a blue. See you, Ellie. I'll put a little video timer guide so you'll know exactly where you need to fast forward to pick up from where you left off. Okay. So I'm going to do a couple of blue ones, but I'm going to do my inline right up against my gold. Oh, and sometimes you just need to do little micro adjustments. I'll pull that down a bit. Okay. Yeah. That's better. Move to the other side. So it's the same principle, but just leaving less of a gap. I might do this one as well. Turquoise and gold is a lovely combo. And then to do my bottoms, obviously I need to increase my radius slightly. You can sort of test where you need that to be. And each time you're looking for the groove for your compass point that you used to draw the original circle. If you find that groove, then you know your arc's going to be in the right place. Okay. Time. Okay. Pencils and pen. Okay. Okay. So hopefully you've got some with gaps and some without gaps to have a play with. I'm now going to show you, because I know some of you may only have coloured pencils and may not be working with water today. So I'm going to show you shading with a coloured pencil to get a sort of raised effect. So lift that up a bit, then I don't have so much shadow. So these are actually watercolour pencils, but let's imagine for one moment that they are just coloured pencils. So to get a nice sort of raised look with coloured pencils, let me come down a bit. So much glare, it's this daylight lighting I've got. Let me try and, that might be a bit better. Be a bit better. Okay. And so I'm going to work in this one here. And I'm going to, the trick with coloured pencils is to hold them far away from the tip. The other trick is to have them sharpened. Let me choose a different one. We'll do orange. It's a sharper one. So if you hold too close to the tip, you risk scribbling and actually making pencil marks, visible pencil strokes, and that's what you don't want. So holding coloured pencils away from the tip and lay them lightly, and what you do is you add layers of colour. So just lightly adding a layer of colour and sort of going across in different directions to lay down an initial layer of colour. Okay. And then essentially, if you want to darken, you just add more layers. You can add more pressure as well, but you've got to be careful with pressure. So, so I've got an orange petal here, but I quite like it to look as if it's 3D. So it's got some sort of curvature. So to do that, I'm going to imagine that I have a light source. So if my light source is, let's say it's up here, the top left, top right of my rectangle, that means that there will be a little bit of shadow right at the bottom of this edge, but there will be far more shadow at the opposite side if my little petal is raised. So I'm going to put some darkness in there. There will be more shadow on this side because it's not right in front of the light source up at the top. And there will be a fair amount of shadow here. Okay. And so by thinking about where your light source is and thinking about hence what bits are going to be darkest and what bits are going to be lightest, you can have a play and generate a bit of a 3D effect on your petal. You can also use erasers with coloured pencils. So say I decided that I wanted a bit more of a gleam where it catches the light. You can actually lift colour to get a bit more of a gleam on the palest corner, if you like. So, coloured pencils used lightly are great ways of laying colour down quickly and getting sort of 3D effects. And I think this is a lovely pattern to do that with, because you can almost imagine these as sort of little round lozenges of shiny ceramic or something like that. So that's coloured pencils. I'm now going to look at using water on both watercolour pencils and fine liners, and I've just realised I didn't lay any watercolour pencil down, so I might do that really quickly now. In fact, I might do it in that orange. I'm going to pop a watercolour pencil in line next door to this one so that we can have a look at doing that as well. Okay. So it's exactly the same principle as using fine liner. Okay, so for adding water, you're obviously going to need a little container of water. it's a good idea to have a little piece of kitchen towel as well, just to blot any excess water off your paintbrush with. And then these are fantastic. Let me show you this little thing. This is, I don't know what it's called actually. It's a paintbrush basically that comes with its own water. And these are fab for doing this sort of thing with. Because you can just sort of curl up on the sofa. You don't need a glass of water. You just need a fine liner and your little water-filled paintbrush. And I'll show you, it's got a reservoir here that you fill with water. And see a paintbrush on the other end. And to clean it, so if I had some pigment on this and I wanted to change colour, all I do is I literally just squeeze some water through the paintbrush, squeezing firmly, and that cleans the brush for me. I just do it over a bit of kitchen towel like that. So you don't even need a glass of water to clean the pigment off the brush. You can just squeeze water through the brush to clean it. So these are great, really useful for sort of painting on the go. But I'm guessing that not many of you will have these. So I'm just going to use, where is my little paintbrush? I'm just going to use a little paintbrush. I got a cheap set of Chinese brushes on Amazon. And actually, they've been absolutely fine. People often say don't buy cheap brushes. They lose hairs and things. But this set have been fine so far. So this is a size 4, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dab the excess water off. You don't want to have too much, but neither do you want to have too little. And I'm going to work on this top one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the inside of the shape out, because when I reach the line with the fine liner pigment on it, I want it to be able to have a wet puddle of paper to blend into. So I work my way up, so I'm laying the water down, I work my way up to the edge and just like tickle the edge with my paintbrush. And you can hopefully see that the fine liner then blends in onto the wet paper on the inside of the shape. I'm going to do that all the way round, so work up to the edge, give it a tickle, and just let that pigment sort of flood into the centre. Okay. And then I just tend to draw my paintbrush over the whole pattern to get rid of any sort of blobs where there might be excess pigment built up. Okay, let's have a look at doing the same with an inline that's butted up right against my gold or black outline. And actually that's a bit easier because your outer outline sort of holds the water in, especially if you've used a metallic. So I'm going to go up to the edge, tickle it. Sometimes you can draw it in a bit like that with your paintbrush. And it's a very subtle effect. And you'll find some fine liners in your set give off more pigment than others. So you'll soon find your favourites that are generous with the amount of pigment. They'll let you tickle off them. Need a bit more water. You'll soon find out when you need a bit more water because basically the pigment doesn't budge. Okay. Well, a really subtle effect, and sometimes I think it almost gives a little stained glass window effect. In fact, I'm going to go and grab one that I've done when I wanted to have a stained glass. This one I'm going to show you now is a Persian, a rosy pattern. I learnt it from a Samira Mian tutorial on YouTube, and it's a stained glass. Essentially, it's a pattern for stained glass windows. So I wanted to get a stained glass window effect when I coloured it in. So I did exactly this technique with my fine liner pens. I outlined the pattern in gold. I butted my fine liner pen in lines right up against the edge of the gold, and then I used a wet paintbrush. So this is the pattern I did, and so that's exactly how I did it. But I was really pleased because you get a sort of paler centre. It looks as if light is shining through it, and you get oh, Emma, that's a shame. What make are they? Yeah, so you get a stained glass window effect. So it might be the colour you've used inadvertently. So you might find that darker colours are more generous with their pigment, Emma. Or it might be that you've inadvertently got permanent fine liners. Try and lay down more than one line when you do. So if you lay down, sort of overlay 3 or 4 lines, essentially you're laying down more pigment that way, and they might be a bit more generous then. If you have felt tips or watercolour pencils, you could try those as well. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have a go at doing exactly the same technique, clean my paintbrush, but on my watercolour pencil outline or inline that I did here. And you'll see that you get a little bit more, watercolour pencils are a bit more generous with their pigment, because obviously they're designed to be used in this way. The fine liners are not really designed to be used with water. And the watercolour pencils give a lovely effect. And you get, in the same way that you get a sort of raised effect, because the pigment gathers at the edge of the shape, it can give that sort of 3D look with a sort of gleam at the centre, paler at the centre. Actually, you can't see that very well, but if I hold that up. Okay. Oh, well, that's a shame. Well, at least you know. You'll have to use them for doodling instead. Okay, last of all, where are we? What's the time? Oh yeah, we've got literally a minute. I think we've done everything. I think what I'll do, so I've just shown you those techniques. The last thing I'll do really quickly is I'll pop down some watercolour pencil in a fine, using my hand far away from the tip of my pencil. I'm just going to lay down a little layer of watercolour pencil across the entire shape, and then blend that. So this is another thing you can do if you have watercolour pencils. But this is what I find quite hard, because I find it quite difficult. You don't want to press too firmly when you lay down your pigment, otherwise you'll have pencil lines that you can't get rid of, pencil marks that you can't get rid of. And the trick, I think, with using watercolour pencils is to work over the whole shape at once. So don't let any bits of it dry out. Keep the whole shape, work at the whole shape as a sort of single unit. And that way you avoid little sort of areas where pigment gathers more than other areas. Actually, that didn't turn out too badly. I must be getting better. So quick ways then of laying down colour or adding interest. And I'm going to very quickly end by showing you some of the effects I achieved when I did Inktober Alhambra. So we'll end doing that. Where are we? So this was Inktober Alhambra, the mad idea that I had back in 2019. And I worked through Manuel Martinez Velaz's book. And you can see here I've done some inlining and blended it with my paintbrush. This was a bit of a mess. This was watercolour pencils. This one I really like. This was just a gold outline and then a black inline. And actually just leaving it like that and not adding colour, just adding the inlines as well as the outlines was enough to add interest to the pattern. That was disastrous. We won't look too closely. That was just coloured pencil quickly. Let me find some more interesting ones. Oh, so this was just outlining in fine liner and blend smudging water. This was several inlines. I'm not convinced of the success of that one. This again was outlining in copper pen, inlining in fine liner and then blending it. And you can see I left a gap there. So lots of ideas to play with. Here I actually, every other one inline. So I left some completely blank, sorry. And I did the same here. So these ones were inlined and these ones were just white and then inlined and white. So you can play around. And oh, this was the first time I did the little hot room pattern. And this was done with watercolour pencil. So I outlined in gold, inlined in watercolour pencil, and then blended with a damp paintbrush, wet paintbrush. That one was similar, that was watercolour pencil again. I laid a bit more pigment down for that. I didn't just outline in watercolour pencil, I actually laid more pigment down. So, oh, this was the one where I swept the paintbrush, a clean paintbrush across to get a sort of smudged effect, which I thought worked quite well. So that was brown fine liner, copper pen, and then I swept my wet paintbrush across. And what I did was I had a little piece of paper on the edge here. I cleaned my paintbrush each time I used it. I swept it from outside the pattern across and onto the paper so that I kept this edge nice and clean. Just sort of moved my little piece of paper around. So you've hopefully got lots of techniques now that you can use to add colour simply. Oh yes, this one as well. This was, I outlined only certain sides of my copper. I outlined the pattern in copper, and then I decided where my light source was, and I did grey outlines on the side that would have been in shadow. Grey inlines or outlines actually. And I think, where was my light source? No idea. I think my light source was hit down this end because this side's in light and this side's in shadow. So pick a place for a light source and experiment. We'll do more of that when we do our tracery around our Gothic windows. We shall work with an imaginary light source when we do that. Okay, peeps, I don't know if anyone has time to have a quick share. Lots of people have to run. See you, Robin. But if you would like to share what you've done, it'd be lovely to see. Where are we? Let's go back to, I'll change camera. Oh, fab. And let me go back to gallery view. Oh, that looks brilliant, Dawn. It's like scales, like a sort of unicorn dragon. It's fab. Andrea, nice work. What did you use? Coloured pencils? I think you're unmuted.
Okay, no, they're just watercolour pencils.
Okay, lovely.
Fine liners to do the outlines properly. So
brilliant. Well, it's an excuse to go shopping. Hi, Lillian. Hi. Love your doodles, Emma. Very cute. Who else have we got? Someone's just disappeared. Nice work, Deborah. You chose to do your little birds. And Claire, have you used pink and orange, Claire? Did you blend two colours together? I think you did. Who else have we got? Liz. Gosh, you did a huge one. Did you work on A3?
Yes, it's A3, so I've got slightly wider across the middle there.
Very nice. Okay.
I won't show you the birds. The birds didn't work out so well.
Back to the drawing board. Literally.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies. I can hear my doorbell ringing. It might be a delivery, so I'm going to love you and leave you, and see you all next week.
Thank you
I hope
very
you
much,
enjoyed
Rosie.
it. Oh, good. Bit of colour today.
Thank you.
Really good. Thank you. See you next week.
See you, Andrea.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you, Bye, everyone.